The big news coming out of Iowa, the endorsement of a major power broker in that state. And for more, let's go to MSNBC political correspondent Steve Kornacki. Steve.
That's right, Kate. Ted Cruz, as Hallie was saying, had already picked up two major endorsements from conservative leaders in the Hawkeye State. Congressman Steve King, radio talk show host Steve Deese. And now he has hit the so-called trifecta out there with Vander, who has been called the state's evangelical kingmaker, endorsing Ted Cruz today. Now, this comes with polls in Iowa showing Cruz closing in on, even overtaking in one case, Donald Trump. And he's doing that thanks to strong support from evangelical voters. And Vander joins us now from Urbandale, Iowa. Bob, thanks for taking a few minutes today. Well, let me start with this. I saw an interview with you earlier today where you said you did not want to go with another establishment candidate. That's one of your reasons for going with Ted Cruz. When you look at this Republican field, who do you define as the establishment candidates, and why can't they win?
Well, all you have to do why they can't win is ask President McCain and President Romney. We don't win when we nominate people more to the center versus those who are going to inspire the base. Ted Cruz is a principled conservative. Has a titanium spine. He's a bold and courageous leader. I think when America gets a chance to see Ted Cruz in person and on the debate stage with Hillary Clinton, I think you're going to look at the next president of the United States, and he's the kind of guy with the character and competency that we definitely need for such a time as this.
Well, so, I mean, when people try to think of those labels, establishment, outsider, okay, I think we could all agree you could put Cruz in that outsider category, Trump, Ben Carson. What about Marco Rubio, though? Is he, in your mind, too establishment to win?
I don't know about that. You know, I'm not going to get in the debate between Senator Rubio and the other candidates. We've made our choice with Senator Cruz. But I think Rubio is trying to, straddle a couple of different lanes, and I think it's going to be very difficult for him to do. But what we've done is that we've made our decision because, again, Ted Cruz has shown the character, the kind of person that we can trust in the Oval Office, the competency. A lot of people like to say they're the smartest guy in the room. I think Ted Cruz could actually be the smartest guy in the room. And he's put a great team around himself. And I believe he has the infrastructure not only in Iowa, but in the early states and the SEC primary, where I think you're going to look at him being the nominee. And I really look forward to him debating Hillary Clinton. I'm
curious, too, if you can tell us a little bit about what Ted Cruz, what his team are doing out there in Iowa right now, specifically his father, Raphael, a pastor. How important was what his father has been doing in terms of meeting with pastors and conservative Christian leaders in Iowa? How important was that to this decision?
Well, it's very important. Raphael Cruz has had a great impact on this race for his son, Ted Cruz. First of all, it just speaks well of Ted Cruz. He comes from very good stock in Raphael Cruz. Raphael Cruz obviously came from Cuba to the United States. He has a compelling story. He's an inspirational speaker with a lot of passion. And then when you see what Ted Cruz has done, memorizing the Constitution at age 13, and what he's done in leadership, both as Solicitor General for the state of Texas and then a U.S. Senator, I think America is going to be exceptionally blessed by having Ted Cruz as their president. And I think Raphael Cruz should get a lot of kudos for the way he raised that young man.
And, the decision to go with Cruz over Donald Trump, I'm thinking of an event a few months ago over the summer in Iowa where Donald Trump, he talked about, he seemed to struggle to communicate with religious conservatives out there. He talked about a communion wafer as the little cracker. He used some profanity. He said he'd never felt the need to ask God for forgiveness for anything. Is there a sense, is there a concern, or are you picking up on this? Do you feel this yourself among conservative Christians in Iowa, that Donald Trump really isn't one of them?
Well, first of all, Donald Trump has been a great value to this race. He's tapped into emotion of the American people, that they're done with politics as usual. But now I do believe people are taking a look at Ted Cruz because, again, he's an outside type candidate. He's taken on both sides of the aisle. He's definitely a leader. He has real solutions. And that's why I think you're seeing him rise in the polls. And so I think that's the mood right now, and that's one of the reasons why we went with Senator Ted Cruz.
And look, from raw, practical politics here, if your candidate now, Ted Cruz, is going to win these caucuses, win them big in February, he's going to need to consolidate that evangelical vote as much as he can. He's been rising at the expense of Ben Carson. It's evangelicals switching. All the polls show this, from Carson to Cruz. Is it time for Ben Carson to reassess his candidacy?
Well, that's up to Dr. Carson. My goal is to unite Iowans around Ted Cruz and to unite national leaders around Ted Cruz. And one thing we learned in 08 and in 2012, that if we're united, we can beat anybody. But if we're divided, we're going to lose. And then again, it's probably going to be a candidate we're not as excited about. And then I think you welcome in President Hillary Clinton. Senator Ted Cruz, I believe, has got a great shot here to be your nominee. And I think if he is, I think he ends up beating Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, and finally, just a piece of news here in the last. I want to ask you about Robert Costa, political reporter from the Washington Post, tweeting out that Republican leaders, national Republican leaders, now seriously looking at, talking about the possibility, and we haven't had one of these really since 1952, of the brokered convention, the open convention. Nobody gets through these primaries with enough delegates to get a first ballot nomination. Do you see that as a realistic possibility?
Well, it could possibly happen. Now, hopefully we're going to avoid that by uniting around Ted Cruz. But if it does go to a convention, again, Ted Cruz has the resources to go to that convention. And I believe when you get to a convention in Cleveland, those delegates that attend those conventions, they are going to be rallying around Ted Cruz. So I think either way, Ted Cruz has a great shot at being our nominee.
All right, Bob Vander, you were with Huckabee in 08. You were with Santorum in 2012. We'll see if you go 3 for 3. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.